Just a few logistics for the webinar today. We will follow up with this with an email so that you can access a recorded version of this presentation. If you have any questions during the presentation, please submit them via the toolbar section. We will address them later in the presentation. If you're having audio difficulties, you might want to go into the telephone mode. It's noted here on the slide, as well as the phone numbers. Based on the survey results that we included in the invitation when you signed up, there is some familiarity with speech analytics technology, albeit different levels. And you've probably been hearing more about speech analytics recently as the technology has matured and become more reliable. Today we will talk about speech analytics as a technology, how it works, provide you with some case studies and the ROI that you can get on some of the on the technology, how HigherGround has actually integrated the CallMiner solution into our easy-to-use dashboards, which some of you are actually using today. For our presenters, we have Brian LaRoche. He is the product marketing manager for CallMiner. Brian has extensive experience in telecommunications industry and has held positions in sales, marketing, and call center services. He's certainly an expert on contact analytics, also known as speech analytics. And Robert Bowman is our product manager at HigherGround, and he has more than 8 years experience in telecommunications. He is our in-house expert, and he actually drives our product strategy and roadmap for HigherGround. HigherGround and CallMiner, this really is a partnership of two best-in-class companies, HigherGround for recording and data management, and CallMiner for automated contact analytics. A little bit about HigherGround. HigherGround's been developing software for about 4 decades. We provide intelligent recording for critical communications, for incident reconstruction, and performance monitoring. We initially started out in telecommunications and transportation industries, but we now also serve public safety, contact centers, and healthcare. Our award-winning solution, specifically our Capture 911 product, has been installed in more than 1,000 PSAPs and government agencies over the past decade. In addition, HigherGround's instant retrieval software is a proven industry standard for call recording and is used as an OEM product in several industry leaders. Our full-featured solutions transform recorded data into actionable intelligence for business decisions with certainty, enabling you to enhance agent performance, optimize operations, improve customer satisfaction, increase revenue. We simplify data analytics by customizing solutions that integrate seamlessly with client applications. Here are just some of the customers that we serve in the various industries. And at this time, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Brian LaRoche with CallMiner. He's going to go over the background for CallMiner and then jump right into speech analytics.
Great. Thank you very much, Donna. It is a pleasure, in fact, to be here today. Hopefully everyone's seeing my screen here at this point. We are thrilled to be part of today's webinar and providing content for this educational series. And we're equally thrilled with our partnership with HigherGround. They represent, again, best of breed in their space, and we are thrilled and honored to be part of their solution set. So let me give you a little background on CallMiner as an organization. We've been in business since 2002, and I guess in modern times that's considered an old company for software. Founded back down in Florida, and one of the first things that we did when we developed our product was that we patented and introduced the very first large vocabulary continuous speech recognition engine. By the way, that is the same engine that is used in most modern speech-to-text applications today. Siri or Dragon software, as an example, both leverage that type of speech-to-text technology. we originally started as kind of a back office engine for other organizations. And so for the first 5 years of our existence, we were actually in the background helping to support analytics applications for other vendors. In 2007, we came into our own. We decided to go direct to market, and we introduced our Eureka product line. And within a year of introducing that product, we were thrilled to be able to deploy the largest multi-location contact or speech analytics solution in the country. And shortly thereafter, also, were implemented as part of the largest U.S. government contact center in the country, where we do over 26,000 hours a day of analytics. You know, throughout our history, we've had a notion of constant improvement, and we absolutely acknowledge that that constant improvement and development is largely the result of the input from our customers. We take great pride in the collaborative spirit in which we work with our customers. We also take a great deal of pride in being recognized as the #1 provider of speech analytics from a customer service as well as a technology standpoint. So again, we leverage the intelligence of our customers, the insight, the suggestions to help us continue to evolve and develop our product line. Our product line, by the way, is built on an open systems architecture. So it's not one of these proprietary lockdown technologies, but rather one that can be used, deployed, and exported to other technologies as well. All Windows-based. And we're, again, through customer insistence, customers were looking, again, the notion of cloud-based services. That's become a very popular way to deploy technologies today. And so we rolled out our cloud-based solution in 2010. Shortly after that, we also rolled out our Eureka, which is an automated scorecard portal for agent performance. So again, the evolution of our company is such that we continue to evolve the technology and listen to our customers to make sure that we are providing the kinds of improvements to the platform and best to help best meet their needs. The feedback portal was a big revolution, and in fact, shortly thereafter, it was also deployed by one of the largest and popular online retailers in the country. Both Eureka, which is our analytics solution, and Eureka are what we refer to as a post-call or post-event analytics technology. In 2013, we were the first company to actually introduce a real-time analytics solution as well. So we now have the ability to deliver our analytics in a real-time, near real-time, or post-call basis. So again, leading the way, we've been an industry pioneer all along the way. We continue to evolve and develop our product line. And again, we continue to count on our customers as a valuable resource for us in terms of helping to develop the ongoing technology. It's through that same degree of cooperation and spirit with our customers that we've been able to really transform the company. So our goals are to help meet our customers' needs and to deliver real actionable insight and return on investment in short order. I'd like to just take a moment to just talk a little bit about our customers in terms of types of customers that we support at CallMiner. So it's a pretty broad range. We have customers in the financial space, communications, utility and engineering, in the government and healthcare, business process outsourcers, e-tail, retail, financial services, and performance marketing. So a whole host of different customers, different profiles, and different objectives. And we take pride in the fact that we have developed a highly customizable and scalable solution to help support the needs of customers in a broad range of vertical applications and size as well. So we have customers as small as 25 agents and as large as 20,000 plus agents. So here we sit in this space. You're attending here today because you have some interest in learning more about analytics and what the return on investment can be for you. We tend to look at the contact center as a value, as a revenue generator, as the means in which you put your stamp on your organization. One of the things that really drives CallMiner is the ability to extract intelligence. And so our customers tell us of the number of reasons why they use our technology. First and foremost, for agent performance. They're also looking for operational efficiencies. How can I get better at some of the things that we do? What are the drivers? How can we reduce our handle time and things of that nature? Customers are also extremely interested in how their customers feel about them. They want to be able to retain their customers, to increase the amount of activity that they have with them. We also have a large number of institutions that look at us to help them with their compliance and risk management. And of course, again, understanding revenue and sales opportunities and how they can better improve those opportunities within that field. And not to be ignored is the ability to really understand the voice of the customer. We truly believe the voice of the customer will help to drive intelligence and insight for you and for your organization. So our technology is used to leverage a host of those things. So I want to talk to you, just share for a moment for you. You know, there's a lot of talk about, well, there's all kinds of new communications that are coming out there. And Donna introduced us, she mentioned that CallMiner is a contact analytics technology, and that's true. And we'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute in terms of what I mean by contact analytics versus speech. But let's just kind of set the bar in terms of where we are in the average contact center environment. You know, we looked at some studies done by organizations like Forrester and Harris Interactive and Zendesk and others who gave us some really meaningful information relative to customer preferences. 71% of customers still prefer to talk on the phone to deal with whatever their objectives might be. And currently today, 92% of customer interactions still take place over the phone. So while other means of communication such as chat, email, and Twitter are becoming larger and more predominant in the marketplace today, they still only represent about 10% of the activity that takes place within the traditional contact center environment. So now you've got a sense of kind of some of the quantitative aspects of the contact center environment as it exists today. Let's talk about the reality, the qualitative components. I don't think it's a surprise to anyone that over 2/3 of customers will leave an organization if they experience poor customer service. And almost 87% of customers have literally stopped doing business with a company because of a bad customer experience. And of course, those numbers then bear out what would be the next logical conclusion, right? That's 80 to 90% then go to the competitor in order to facilitate their objectives because of that bad experience. So I think we all realize and embrace the notion and the importance of and the value of the agent interaction in your call center environment. So you're here wanting to learn a little bit more about automated analytics. And so the question becomes, simply put, what is automated analytics? And I think the best quote I ever heard came from our Chief Technology Officer and founder of CallMiner, Jeff Polino. And he said, well, automated analytics is really nothing more than automating the mundane and providing 100% interactions and insight within a contact center. So automated analytics provides us the opportunity to do what previously was a pretty challenging role in terms of quality management and business intelligence. We talked already about how agents perform and how they impact the call center environment, whether, again, sales, collections, you know the story there. The traditional way in the call center environment, and as Donna mentioned, I had the dubious distinction of not only selling and engineering call center solutions, I then ultimately, in a cruel twist of fate, wound up running a call center myself. So I've been on both sides of the occasion, of the equation. And I know how challenging it is to maintain the quality and agent performance in your contact center. Traditionally, that's been a manual process. Supervisors listen to X number of calls per day per agent, and typically, by the way, statistically, in most modern call centers, agents who are doing manual Q&M are typically, supervisors are listening to only 6 calls per month per agent. That's typically less than 1% of all of the agent interactions in the course of a month. So you're doing manual listening. You're taking your supervisors off the floor to sit there and listen to calls. The sampling is not statistically accurate. It's untargeted. It's kind of a random event. The feedback that you may or may not be able to provide as a result of that manual monitoring is slow and untimely. It's very rarely something that can be actionable in the near term. And of course, because you're only listening to a small sampling of calls, not only are you only getting a small sampling of how the agent interactions work, key intelligence in terms of what your customers are saying to you remains undiscovered. So let's look at automation as a way of dramatically enhancing and improving that. Through an automated analytics solution, you now have the opportunity to score, listen, and analyze every single call, and to do it in a consistent and totally objective basis. You'll be able to take that information. Remember, I talked about the ability to deliver in post-call, near real-time, or real-time. So the ability to give that feedback to you in a very, very timely basis is dramatically better. The opportunity to, by again measuring and scoring all of the calls, it now gives you the opportunity to really focus on where are the challenges and where are the opportunities for improvement in your call center overall and individually at a team or individual agent level. Because of the ability to target and to look at all of those interactions, you also have the really unique ability to then, after you've done your coaching, you've identified an area for improvement, you're then able to go in and literally the next day see how that coaching impacted your agent performance. So again, the ability to extract that information, to get it in a timely fashion, and measure results is really key. And not to be ignored in this whole process, again, as I said to you before, is the notion of voice of the customer insight. Now you'll be able to extract intelligence in terms of what are your customers saying, what are they reacting to, what do they feel strongly about. By automating this, you don't have to rely on surveys or post-call surveys or things of that nature to really find out what your customers are saying, because as you know, a very small percentage of customers actually do a post-interaction survey. So now you can extract intelligence across all of those interactions. It will give you the opportunity to confirm or deny trends or beliefs that you might have relative to your customer's mindset. And last, but certainly not least, and in fact probably amongst the most impactful from an ROI standpoint, is the opportunity to improve the efficiencies within your call center environment. So again, I mentioned before the notion that we refer to ourselves as a contact analytics. You know, when we talk about speech analytics, we're really only talking about one type of technology. But the reality today, as I mentioned before, is customers do contact us in a whole host of different ways, whether it be on the call, a chat, a Twitter, an email, and in fact, oftentimes in the e-tail environment, many calls start as a chat or an email and then progress into a call. We refer to that as the customer journey, the ability to understand the interactions that not just took place as a chat, but as they cross that broad spectrum of interactions around the customer. We refer to that as the customer journey. We refer to the ability to have a platform that can handle all of those types of analytics as omni-channel analytics. And you'll be pleased to know that HigherGround and CallMiner offer you an omni-channel analytics solution that can take any type of interaction that you will have with your customers or your callers and provide key, meaningful, and actionable insight. So I'm going to give you just a quick overview in terms of how CallMiner and Eureka solves the problem of understanding and extracting information from your call center interactions. So the first thing we do is we take those interactions, and we refer to that, by the way, as unstructured data. So it could be a telephone call, a chat, a Twitter, or an email, and then we combine that with what we refer to as metadata. Now, metadata takes many forms. It could be coming through from the telephony platform, it could be coming from the IVR, it could be coming from a call relationship or a customer relationship platform. So we combine all of those different insights, who the caller was, who the agent was, what was the time of the call, was it an inbound call, did they do an IVR selection. All of that information is taken and coupled with the unstructured data of the interaction. And then we put that into our database. So what do we do? Well, the first thing that we do, remember I mentioned that we have a large vocabulary continuous speech recognition engine. Because of that engine, the power of that engine, by the way, it has close to 100,000 words in it, we actually are able to create a transcript of that interaction. So we literally are creating a transcript of all the spoken words. We do speech to text. The other important element that we do is we also measure the acoustical values associated with that call. And so those values include agitation, call length, word tempo, and very, very important, silence. Now, my mother used to say to me that my silence tells a big story because I wouldn't talk about something. Well, silence tells a big story. And by the way, I don't want to get into my mother. That's a whole different issue. But silence tells a huge story in terms of your call center interactions, and the amount of silence on a call could be indicative of a number of things. Customer dissatisfaction, agents unfamiliar with what the next step in the process might be. There could be actually a procedural issue or a functional issue where it's taking too long to refresh a screen. So again, silence plays a big role in analytics. Once we've done we've created the transcripts and measured the acoustical values, we then are able to categorize the call. Now, categories are defined by the customer application. As we talked about before, there's a number of different drivers and a number of different organizations that will use the product. We have the ability within our platform to be highly customizable to the use case. So whether you're in customer service or sales or finance or collections, whatever, or service of some sort, whatever your particular concerns and measurement objectives are, we can customize and help support the creation of categories to support your objectives. So once we get and have all those categories, now you have the ability to search calls, to analyze and measure things, and very, very importantly, discover the unknown. We'll talk a little bit more about discovery in a bit. So we've done the categorization. We've been able to measure and analyze the calls. Now we're able to create additional outputs that will, again, be that agent portal that we talked about, the automated scorecard, the ability to measure and do trending and analysis to determine how your agents are performing, what are your customers saying, in order to calculate and measure KPIs and key metrics. Finally, the platform also has the ability to export that data and information into other platforms. And most notably here, of course, is because of the integration between CallMiner and HigherGround, we're actually able to export that the data from the CallMiner's platform right into the Calibri dashboard. So again, a very, very tight integration with a best-of-class service provider. So we talked a little bit about how the engine works. You saw a little bit of a flow chart here. I'm going to give you an example here of an actual transcript and what our technology is actually doing to measure, analyze, and report on those interactions. So what you see here is an example of a transcript that was created as a result of a call into a bank customer. You'll notice that we're able to distinguish between the agent and the customer. And this was a call that took place where a customer called in. And again, what we do is what you see on the left-hand side are what we referred to before as the categories. So the reasons for the call, what were the behaviors exhibited, the products and services, competitors, procedures, and outcomes. On the right-hand side are the attributes that we talked about, the unstructured voice call, the acoustical measurements, and whatnot. So as the call is taking place and as the CallMiner's analytics engine is working, it's determining what were the reasons for the call, what were the behaviors that were exhibited, what products or services were mentioned, was there any competition mentioned, how about the procedures that we want to have in our call center environment, and finally, what were the attributes that we plugged into the analytics to provide this insight. So again, here's a customer interaction. Now you can see all of the categories, the different things that were measured and analyzed, and again, custom defined by the customer. In this case, it was a financial organization. And then once we've had that data, now we're going to be comparing it to what the agent thought. You know, so in many environments, you have in a CRM platform, you'll have some sort of disposition code. So the agent talks to the person, and then they're going to disposition what was the call about. And if you were relying strictly on, you had just a manual monitoring process, and you were just relying on the data from your CRM disposition codes, your disposition codes would probably say, well, the customer called about a balance inquiry, and they also asked about overdraft protection. But through the power of analytics, not only have we now been able to identify and understand all of the elements associated with this particular interaction, we were able to provide true clarity to what actually took place on the call. This customer was dissatisfied because they had an overdraft fee. The customer mentioned that one of their competitors offers a lower fee, and that this particular customer represents a high churn risk. So not only do you have the opportunity to understand what took place on the call from an attribute standpoint and from a transcript standpoint, you really can get to the heart of the matter, again, the voice of the customer. So I mentioned before that analytics is used by a lot of organizations for a lot of different purposes. And as you can see, it's such an overwhelming number of use cases and vertical markets. I'm not going to go into each and every one of them, but suffice it to say, if you have an opportunity to look at all of these different reasons and drivers, I think you'll agree that many of them may fall within the context of your call center environment. So we've talked a little bit about who uses it. We talked about a little bit about why you use it. Let's go through a couple of case studies that will give you a clearer indication of really how this works. So the first one is Pershing. Pershing's a Bank of New York Mellon company. They handle financial transactions. They are a large call center environment, outsourced their Q&L. So again, customer drivers, we're always looking to help them hit the ground running, find out what their primary objectives are, and help them meet those objectives in short order. For Pershing, they wanted to reduce their costs, they wanted to increase their scoring, and they wanted a higher speed to results. We were pleased to say that Pershing, who by the way has won a number of awards both for their deployment of speech technology and awards for their recognition as an outstanding customer service provider, which they largely attribute, by the way, in no small measure to CallMiner. They were able to achieve the results that they set for in very, very short order. Within 9 months, this customer had seen a dramatic reduction in their average handle times. They had they were able to monitor 100% of their calls. We're also able to deliver to their regulatory agencies the fact that all of their calls were monitored for compliance purposes. They were able to reduce and, in fact, eliminate their outsourcing cost and get a higher and better customer experience. So, again, ROI, ROI, ROI. And CallMiner and HigherGround are dedicated to ensuring that your ROI and your call objectives are met in short order. Many folks might be familiar with the name of Nautilus. Nautilus is a provider of quality and innovative health and fitness products. Their brands include Nautilus, Bowflex, Schwinn bikes, and they are they are a large organization in an international market. They too were having issues within their call center environment. They were finding a high degree of abandonment of calls, so seeing calls go into queue and then losing them. They were also getting a pretty low net promoter scores because of customer dissatisfaction with the experience. What's interesting, and again, we talk about the interactions in the speech channel, the interactions of the agents. What's equally important to note is not only can CallMiner and HigherGround help you solve and improve your agent performance, it can also help you with process. And in the case of Nautilus, once we deployed our solution for them, what they found was they had a high abandonment rate because they were having problems with their IVR. They were having frustration with customers because the IVR was asking the customer all of their pertinent information, and then the agent got on the call and started asking them the same thing. Needless to say, I think we've all been there, right? You are on hold forever, you're listening to the music, you finally get to talk to somebody, and you have to replay all the information you already gave them. So by using the analytics solution, not only was Nautilus able to understand what drove the customer or what were some of the concerns, we also uncovered some procedural issues that included the IVR sending people to the wrong selection. So again, by looking and using our technology, within 90 days, Nautilus came back and said, we've already paid for this investment, and in fact wrote a white paper on this within 120 days of deploying our technology. So their service level, their customer net promoter scores, their abandonment rate, their average handle time has all been dramatically improved by use of CallMiner's technology. And the final example I'll use for you today, and again, you'll notice here, this is British Gas, largest utility provider in England. They're a triple play, right? They do gas, they do electric, they do oil. And again, we talk about hitting the ground running and trying to find some primary objectives, the low-hanging fruit. They came to us and said, we want to improve our first call resolution. We want to increase the amount of data that we capture from our interactions, and we want to increase our sales. And so CallMiner worked with them to identify what were the elements associated with all three of those objectives. And so we helped them customize their solutions so that their use cases were ideally suited to the analytics platform put in place. And so within 6 months of deploying this technology, we were able to have a 1.5% increase in their what they refer to as right first time. we typically refer to that here as first call resolution. They had a dramatic improvement in their data collection and data capture. That they wanted things like, hey, what's your email address? Could you tell me what your mobile number is? What's the best way to reach you? They wanted to have that kind of information, and we got a 100% increase in the email requests and a 50% increase in mobile phone capture. And then most importantly, of course, for British Gas, this was a real driver for them. We were able to help their care sales increase by 30 to 50% by understanding what were the right and best behaviors for agents to display in terms of selling to an existing base of customers. So I'm going to direct you to the quote made by the head of analytics at British Gas when he was talking about CallMiner. And he said, and I'll paraphrase it for you, speech analytics isn't just something that it isn't just something for us to do. It's a tool that helps us achieve our objectives, not only the ones that we know and are trying to facilitate now, but even to help us do things that we haven't even thought about before. He said it better than I just paraphrased it, I realized, but I think you get the gist. So what he's talking about here is the opportunity for discovery. So in all of the previous examples, we had a really strong sense of what the customer wanted to do and a strong sense of what we needed to do to help them design the categories and the behaviors associated with those objectives. But here's what's interesting as well. With your CallMiner speech analytics, contact analytics solution, we also provide you what is referred to as TopicMiner, which is organic discovery. What that means is we are actually looking at all of the interactions and identifying those areas and those items that were spoken most frequently about. This is a totally unstructured ad hoc discovery tool that is part and parcel of your platform. So not only can you help identify the things that you do know, but it will help you identify the things that you don't know. So CallMiner's organic discovery tool helps you identify those areas, those comments, those that are used more frequently than others. You can look at it as a word cloud, which, by the way, is far and away the most popular way our customers say they want to use this. In fact, many of them, when they're doing presentations to their leadership, they use the word clouds to demonstrate the kind of analytics that they were able to achieve. And once you've identified those areas, those words that were most frequently spoken and what the correlation is between those words, you can then help to build new search categories that would be specific to that discovery. So a very, very powerful tool, again, part of the basic platform. And time after time after time, we are told that this particular feature is a real game changer in an organization because, again, it helps them identify things they didn't know. So I've talked to you about CallMiner. I think hopefully I gave you some meaningful insight in terms of how our technology works and how speech analytics works in general. And it's now my pleasure to hand over the presentation to my counterpart at HigherGround, Robert Bowman, who's now going to take you through the HigherGround platform.
Thank you so much, Brian. I think that was extraordinarily informative for all of our attendees watching. Right now you should be seeing a quick poll for the audience, and while you're filling out the poll, I just wanted to speak to HigherGround. You know, the catalyst or the underlying technology that really is required for performance monitoring, speech analytics, and agent evaluation is the recording element of itself. A lot of times that recording piece of it gets overlooked, but that really is the core that everything else is depending on in order to perform speech analytics, in order to perform agent evaluation on the back end, and truly do a performance monitoring solution that aligns with where a contact center's performance is and where it needs to be. So being able to leverage a reliable recording solution to then progress as you're going forward into other areas such as performance management and agent evaluation, and have it work across a multitude of technologies via Cisco, Microsoft Link, or as they refer to themselves, Skype for Business. those are the technologies you need to be able to leverage a reliable recording solution for, so that the speech analytics that we're talking to today has a dependable solution to ride on. So with that said, let's go ahead and jump into the presentation this afternoon. Very quickly, I'm going to discuss HigherGround and go into HigherGround solutions as they are available today. HigherGround provides two flagship solutions, the Calibre for contact centers and Capture 911 for public safety. Calibre for performance monitoring is geared to assisting supervisors and call center directors manage their employees and performance and continually monitor performance to improve over time. While the Capture 911 platform is designed from the ground up to record critical communications within the public safety space, where seconds count and reliability means everything. So let's speak to the actual technology implementation and some of the ROI pieces that I know everybody's wanting to glean some insight into how speech analytics can truly drive return on investment. So before I jump into that, let me cover some of the philosophy behind how HigherGround has implemented speech analytics powered by CallMiner. HigherGround has taken the approach of both a automated, everything goes through the speech analytics engine, or selective, where you're defining the either the channels or the department or a small subsegment or group. So what does that mean? Automated being everything goes through the speech analytics engine. Every single interaction is then measured against CallMiner's speech analytics tool, where selective could be only a specific department, only a subset of agents, or on-demand post-call or post-interaction. For instance, maybe you had something happen in the contact center last week, last month, and you want to get some insight. Maybe call volumes jumped, or the amount of time to handle or close call volumes adjusted. So you want to mine as to, okay, what type of environmental variables changed. So let's run these through the CallMiner engine to glean some insight into what changed. And we really wanted to do that because it doesn't have to be an all or nothing type of implementation. We wanted to allow customers to gradually roll into a speech analytics implementation without the high overhead costs associated with a long-term commitment of immediately converting all interactions to be mined for back-end data. So with that in mind, as Brian had mentioned, a real big piece of efficiencies gained and truly gaining ROI is measuring things like percent silence. Percent silence is really the definition of how effective are your agents in getting the root cause of a customer issue, and then based on that customer issue, resolve it and move on to the next customer issue. Percent silence tells you how effective this particular agent is. If there's some sort of deficiency in the process, maybe the CRM system, as Brian had mentioned, is not fast enough. Maybe they're waiting for screen refreshes. But being able to measure that percent silence on a per agent basis, on a per group basis, and then on the enterprise basis to see who's really performing, who is an efficient agent, and where do I need to focus my time and energy on, because maybe they're not really getting to the true intent of what the customer need is. But improving efficiency ultimately comes down to increased ROI. Being able to handle more calls per existing agent, thus being able to accomplish more with less, is part of the catalyst for a speech analytics implementation. So let's talk about how HigherGround has implemented the analytics and how you're seeing the speech analytics information from within the HigherGround interface. One thing you'll notice is the HigherGround interface is essentially a playback tool, but it's much more than that. You have the ability to see the interaction grid and the underlying data tied to individual interactions. Up in the top right, and I'll get into that in more details, you have the transcript of a mined interaction, as well as a screen recording tied to how that agent worked on it. And you can see all of their screens. Each one of these windows is dockable and undockable, so you have the ability to zoom in and view screen interactions for particular agents. In this particular case, we're looking at the underlying data associated with this particular interaction. So you can see things such as percent silence, an automatic agent score based on the measurements that you're looking for, customer satisfaction gleaned off of the information that the customer is saying within the call, an overall emotion score based on measurements for the types of words that are used in the call, tempo, and agitation. For instance, if the customer is saying, I'm frustrated or I'm very unhappy, those types of keywords can clue you into an overall agitation score associated with this interaction and give you an understanding of which one of your agents is effective in diffusing situations and which of your agents is, needs a little bit more training on how to diffuse situations and work through things like agitation. So being able to get that feedback is extraordinarily helpful for you as a supervisor, as well as for your agents, so that they can see where their opportunities for improvement really lie. So jumping on into the HigherGround interface, as I mentioned, is the visual media pane, where you actually can see a visual transcript of the interaction as it was translated by CallMiner Speech Analytics. This is the transcript as it was interpreted. You still have the ability to do playback of the audio, but this transcript ends up being effective once you want to be able to do advanced search, as we'll see into the next screen, is being able to search on an interaction for a particular keyword or a phrase. Maybe you want to see the number of times that each of your agents was approached with the word cancellation, and then how they handled those types of calls. You can very quickly do a search for last week's data of the word cancellation by agent and see how each of those agents addressed the situation where the word cancellation was brought up in the underlying conversation. So let's get into tying all this data back together. You're really getting the opportunity for, as Brian had alluded to, two best-in-class systems. So the CallMiner Speech Analytics data tied back together with the HigherGround metadata and all pulled together into a sophisticated reporting engine that allows you to then build complex reports based on your customer data. And here's what that could potentially look like, is creating dashboards with performance metrics to monitor in near real time of your call center. In this particular case, being able to monitor in near real time overall percent silence on a per agent basis or per department basis, and being able to see how that performance is. Taking that one step further is taking that to something that becomes actionable immediately. Being able to say, okay, I want to ensure that all of my agents are hitting a minimum threshold for customer satisfaction, and if they're not hitting this minimum threshold, I want to get an immediate notification via email or push notification on my mobile device so that I can address the situation then, rather than waiting until I'm reviewing reports a week or 2 weeks down the line and addressing it while it's no longer fresh. So it gives you that opportunity to establish what your baseline metrics should be and then address things as they fall below your defined minimums for agent score or agitation or whatever other metrics that you want to measure to ensure that you're hitting your key performance indicators based on your business needs. The other thing that I wanted to call attention to in this particular slide is on the right-hand side, you'll see that we've got the chart circled in a red outline. What this is really showing you is the ability to transition at your comfort level from a manual-based grading environment to a fully automated-based grading platform while comparing the performance of those agents side by side. So you'll see that the blue grid is an indicator of manual grading based on your old process of manually grading each one of your interactions. As Brian said, that tends to be less than 1% per agent. And on the right-hand side, you'll see that that orange bar is actually measuring the individual interaction as it was graded through automated grading in CallMiner. This really allows you to be a hybrid model and ensure that your automated speech analytics gradings are aligning with your manual grading measurements so that you ensure that you're grading fair across the board and that you have your agents buy into what those measurements are, and ensuring that your manual grading is aligning with your speech analytics grading over time so that you can continually phase it up. And then you get to only measuring 1%, you're truly measuring every interaction from within your contact center and being able to measure overall performance rather than a very sub-segment of the interactions that your agents are addressing. And as I had mentioned earlier, the ability to receive those real-time or near real-time notifications to adjustments within the presentation are what makes your speech analytics implementation valuable, is being able to take the metrics that you define and get a notification as things are changing or occurring within your contact center is what really drives a strong speech analytics implementation. So here's what CallMiner and HigherGround have partnered to be able to allow our customers to do is to take a test drive. It's one thing to hear Brian or myself speak about speech analytics, but it's another thing entirely to take the speech analytics implementation and measure what the results would be based on your calls or based on your interactions. So HigherGround and CallMiner have partnered together to take some of your existing data or some of your already recorded customer interactions and run them through the CallMiner speech analytics engine to glean some insight into what's happening. It's one thing to know what's already occurring within the contact center, but it's another thing entirely to find those bits of information that you don't know are occurring. And as Brian had mentioned, the word cloud or the TopicMiner tool really allows you to find trends within your contact center based on mine data that you don't know are occurring. And that's one of the really exciting parts about this test drive, is getting that insight into what's happening in my contact center that I don't understand or that I don't know today. So with that, we're going to go ahead and address some questions, as well as you should see a new poll popping up for responding to. And if you do have questions related to the webinar, would like to address any of the content that we've already spoken to, you should have a questions box on the side of your screen where you can input some questions. Thank you.
Brian and Robert, thank you so much. That was a really great explanation of the speech analytics technology and some really good examples of the return on investment. I do have a couple of questions in the chat right now that we should address. This first one is, what is the percentage accuracy of speech analytics? Brian, maybe you can take that question?
Sure, I'd love to, and it's a frequently asked question. And the answer is a variable. And the impacting factors, quite frankly, on accuracy entail the quality of the recording, the quality of the audio that's received. It's also a factor of how well are the speakers speaking, is there accents, is there background noise and static and things of that nature. So there can be a broad variety of issues that impact that. And we've seen accuracy rates, you know, anywhere from 50% up to 85 or 90% and higher. However, and again, you know, the analogy I always use is if anyone uses their Siri, for instance, if they have an iPhone, and you use it to ask Siri a question, oftentimes she will understand what's being said, even if she recognized a word spoken as wrong, and that's because there's a level of contextual understanding that also takes place. So even though a word may not be recognized accurately, if it's expressed in a contextual fashion, which our analytics engine does, it will also understand things. And I think we've all done that, right? Somebody's texted you something and something didn't make sense. You were able to fill in the blanks. Much like if you looked at a redacted document and you saw there were certain things redacted, you could still mentally fill in the blanks. And that's what happens from an accuracy standpoint. The other point I will make, remember I spent some time talking about categories. Categories and the terms and expressions that make up those categories has even a higher degree of accuracy than the transcripts themselves. And that's because, again, being able to understand things contextually, it will oftentimes assign the right category to a word expressed or a sentence expressed, even if there were words that were misinterpreted.
Thank you, Brian. That was good response. Another question we have is this solution being used in any non-call center environments? Robert, can you take that?
I can. So yes, speech analytics is actually being rolled out in several non-call center, non-traditional contact center environments. For instance, you might not immediately think about a public safety answering point or a 911 facility, but speech analytics could very easily be rolled out in an implementation for public safety. It could also be rolled out in being able to review radio communications. For instance, large utilities handle a lot of radio communications. Government and security also have a lot of radio implementations. And there's a lot of times where critical communications are being handled on something outside of a traditional, as we know it, contact center environment. But there's still a lot of information and insight to be gleaned out of those communications that are happening on non-traditional phone communication devices that could have a lot of value in mining those transactions or improving the efficiency of communication along those other type of non-traditional devices as we think of them today within a contact center environment. So hopefully that addressed your question, but if you have any additional follow-on to that, feel free to go ahead and post a new one.
Hey, Robert, I might just add that we used in, again, non-contact center environments to extract intelligence from automated survey platforms, a whole host of different applications. So yeah, it's gaining broad-scale use in a number of traditional and non-traditional environments.
Great. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, guys. I think we have time for one more question. This question, I think, speaks specifically to the return on investment. And the question is, what are the quick wins in deploying this technology?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as I gave in some of the examples today, some of the quick wins are obviously being able to go and reduce or increase operational efficiency. So one of the big ones that we typically see a lot of, and again, those discovery moments that you'll find, quite frankly, in the test drive, I hope you take advantage of that, is the amount of silence that's on a call. Why is silence taking place? Is it a process issue? Is it an orientation or training issue? we find there are lots of rooms for opportunity for improvement in reducing the amount of silence that takes place on a call. Now, let's face it, time is money. If you can handle more calls, you require less agents, you can process more calls, more opportunities, whatever your objectives might be. Another low-hanging fruit is around first call resolution. So the ability to facilitate the solving of whatever the customer's objectives are in calling into the contact center are dramatically impacted by the number of times that you can resolve that customer's issues on the first call. So first call resolution is a big one. Silence is a big one. The cost of your QM programs can be profoundly impacted, especially if you're using outsourcing or if you're doing everything on a manual basis. Now, and in fact, what we find is people never have to add on more personnel for QM, and in fact, they're able to oftentimes repurpose people who were strictly in a Q&M role into a true coaching role and eliminate strictly a QM functionality and incorporate that into a QM coaching functionality, because now they've automated all of the scoring, all of the analytics, and now it can really be quality one-on-one time with the agents.
Great, thank you so much, and thank you again to Brian and Robert for the great presentation today. It was very informative, and hopefully everybody got some good information on the speech analytics technology and the return on investment that it provides. Feel free to reach out to us. Robert's information is noted on the screen there. And on behalf of HigherGround and CallMiner, we just want to thank you for attending today's